The Great Assembly Hall was never meant to feel empty. It was built to hold the voices of 1,000 worlds. Its ceiling curved like the inside of a giant shell, glowing with soft alien light. Tall pillars made of black crystal reached upward, carved with the history of wars, alliances, and betrayals older than Earth itself. On this day, the hall was full. Thousands of beings stood shoulder to shoulder. Some were wrapped in silk-like robes. Some wore armor fused into their skin. Some floated gently above the floor, humming with quiet energy. They came to listen. They came to judge. They came to decide the future of the galaxy. At the center, on a raised throne grown from living stone, sat Queen Virelia. She was ancient, older than most civilizations in the room. Her crown was not metal but bone-white crystal, shaped by time and power. Her silver eyes moved slowly across the crowd, heavy with knowledge no one else wanted to carry. Near the back of the hall stood Ethan Cole. He was human. He looked small there. No armor, no weapons. Just a dark coat and tired eyes. He was not a warrior or a politician. He was only a translator, sent because humanity had finally been invited to listen instead of fight. Ethan felt the tension in the air. It pressed against his chest, thick and cold. The other species avoided standing near him. Some whispered when they noticed his face. Some looked at him with open fear. Others with quiet hatred. Humans had a reputation. Ethan knew that. A low tone echoed through the hall. The signal for silence. Queen Virelia rose from her throne. Every sound died. Even breathing seemed too loud. She did not shout. She did not threaten. She did not raise her voice at all. She spoke one sentence. Humanity has arrived. For a heartbeat. Nothing happened. Then the galaxy panicked. A tall insect-like ambassador screamed and dropped to the floor. A group of reptilian nobles ran for the side doors, claws scraping against stone. Floating beings flickered and vanished in emergency teleport flashes. Security shields slammed down, then failed as everyone tried to escape at once. The proud hall turned into chaos. Ethan stood frozen. He watched powerful leaders, beings who commanded fleets and suns, run like frightened animals. Some cried out prayers. Some cursed the queen. Some begged for mercy from gods that were not listening. In less than a minute, the hall was empty. Doors hung open. Lights flickered. The echo of footsteps faded into nothing. Nothing except silence. And Ethan. He looked around slowly, his heart beating so hard it hurt. His hands were shaking. His mind screamed at him to run, to hide, to follow the others, but his feet would not move. He did not know why. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the strange, painful pride growing in his chest. The queen looked down at him. For the first time, her expression changed. Not anger, not disgust, curiosity. A human, she said softly. Her voice echoed through the empty hall, gentle but heavy. Why are you still here? Ethan swallowed. His throat was dry. He felt very alone. I don't know, he said honestly. The queen stepped down from her throne. Each step sent a quiet vibration through the floor. She stopped a short distance from him. Up close, she felt overwhelming, like standing in front of a mountain that could speak. You heard my sentence, she said. Every being here understood its meaning. Ethan nodded slowly. They were afraid. Yes, the queen replied. Terrified. She tilted her head slightly. And yet you stayed. Ethan clenched his fists. If everyone runs, he said, his voice shaking, then someone has to stay. Someone has to listen. The queen stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something no one in the galaxy expected. She smiled, not a smile of victory, a smile of deep, painful relief. Then, she said quietly, perhaps the stories were true after all. The lights in the hall dimmed, and the doors sealed shut behind them. Outside, the galaxy trembled. Inside, one human stood alone with the Queen, who had just spoken the most dangerous sentence in history. Ethan's heart still pounded as the Queen watched him. Silence filled the hall like a heavy fog. Outside, the universe roared with fear and confusion, but inside, there was only him and her. The emptiness felt alive. Every shadow seemed to breathe. Every glimmer of alien crystal seemed to watch him. Queen Virelia's silver eyes softened. "Do you know," she asked, her voice slow and almost sad, "what your kind is called across the stars?" Ethan shook his head. His voice caught in his throat. "No, I don't. They call humans." The last line. Ethan blinked. The word sounded strange, heavy, important. "The last line?" He repeated, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Yes," the Queen said. She walked slowly around him, her robe whispering against the stone floor. "Other species fear you. Not because you are strong. Not because you can destroy fleets. But because you refuse to run. You face what others flee. You stay when all others escape. You fight when the universe tells you to give up." Ethan swallowed. He had always thought humans were small, fragile, insignificant. But to the galaxy, he realized now, they were something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something unforgettable. The Queen stopped in front of him. She raised one hand, delicate and pale, almost fragile, yet it radiated authority. "There was a time," she said, "when a star-devouring creature appeared in our sector. All fleets were destroyed. Every weapon failed. Every species retreated to survive. Every species, except yours. Humans stayed. They faced the void, knowing death was certain. They slowed it, long enough for others to escape. They perished. But your kind..." She looked at him sharply. "You saved countless worlds by standing alone." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He wanted to say something, to protest. "We were just trying to survive. We didn't do it for glory." But the words caught in his throat. She continued, her voice like a whisper across the universe. "And there was another time. A time loop anomaly trapped an entire sector. Civilizations went mad, repeated mistakes, erased themselves from existence. Yet humans endured. You remembered each loop, even as your mind fractured. You fixed what you could. You persisted. And the loop ended." Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. He had only heard fragments of these stories, scattered in interstellar history. He had never imagined they were about people like him. "Do you understand now why the other species fled the moment I spoke your name?" the Queen asked. "They have seen your stories, your history. They know what it means to face humans. They fear not your weapons, but your resolve." Ethan shook his head slowly, all mixing with fear. "We're just people," he said quietly, almost ashamed. "Yes," the Queen replied, a strange sadness in her voice. "That is what makes you terrifying. You do not know when to quit. You do not know when to give up. You cling to life, to hope, to each other, even when the universe tells you that hope is gone." Ethan's thoughts wandered to Earth, to his home. The endless struggles, the small acts of courage, the moments when humans should have given up, and did not. People who built, who protected, who loved, even when the world seemed broken beyond repair. Somehow that small, fragile persistence had turned into something formidable in the eyes of the galaxy. Queen Virelia watched him carefully. Her eyes were soft but sharp, like she was trying to read his very soul. "You stayed when all others ran," she said. "Do you know why that is?" Ethan hesitated. He wanted to give a simple answer. "I don't know. I just stayed." But in the quiet of the hall, he realized the truth. "Because someone has to," he said finally. Someone has to be here. Someone has to see it. Someone has to fight. Even if it seems impossible. The queen let out a long, slow breath, like she had been holding it for centuries. Then perhaps the stories are true, she murmured. Perhaps humanity is indeed the last line. The one that stands when everything else falls. Ethan looked up at her, a mix of fear and pride stirring inside him. He did not feel like a hero. He felt like a human, small, fragile, and determined. Yet somehow that seemed enough. For the first time, Queen Virelia's expression softened completely. She extended a hand not to strike, but in acknowledgement. Then, human, perhaps the galaxy will survive because you stayed. Outside the hall, stars shivered in fear. But inside, a human stood alone, facing a queen who understood the impossible courage of his kind. Ethan still stood in the center of the empty hall, his mind spinning. His heart pounded like a drum, echoing through the vast space. Outside, the galaxy seemed alive with panic, but inside silence ruled. The queen's gaze never left him. It was steady, unblinking, full of weight he could not understand. Finally, he asked the question that had burned in his chest since the moment she spoke. If they were all so afraid, why did you speak my name? Why announce that humans had arrived? Queen Virelia paused. Her silver eyes seemed to look through him, beyond him, past the stars themselves. The hall dimmed slightly and the air thickened. Because human, the galaxy is dying. Ethan's stomach dropped. Dying? He whispered. She raised her hand and a three-dimensional map appeared in the air. Stars blinked and shimmered, systems spun slowly. Then the stars began to die, one by one. Entire sectors dissolved into nothingness. It was not fire or radiation, it was emptiness itself. A wave that erased space, time, and memory. She called it the end silence. It spreads, the queen said, her voice trembling slightly. Nothing can stop it. No fleet, no weapon, no shield. Reality itself bends and dies before it. When I said your name, everyone understood. They knew that humans may be the only ones who could even try to face it. Ethan felt his legs weaken. He sank slightly to one knee, staring at the holographic death that was swallowing entire civilizations. You want us to fight it? His voice was barely audible. Virelia nodded slowly. We have tried. Every species tried. Every species fled, leaving others to die. We survived by escaping. But this time, there may be no escape. This is why your kind is feared. Humans do not know how to run. Ethan swallowed hard. We're just people. We're small, weak. We've barely mastered space travel. How could we possibly? Exactly, she interrupted softly. You are not mighty. You are not undefeatable. And yet, the galaxy trembles at the sound of your name because you do not give up. You do not retreat. You do not surrender. When the universe tells you to run, you stand. When reality tells you to die, you fight. You are terrifying not because you destroy, but because you endure. He thought of Earth, of wars fought with simple tools, of cities rebuilt after disasters, of people helping strangers they did not know, risking their lives for each other again and again. He thought of the countless humans who had refused to give up, even when everything seemed hopeless. Somehow that small, fragile persistence had become a force the galaxy feared. Virelia's voice softened, almost a whisper. I have seen many species, human. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen fleets wiped out in moments, stars swallowed by greed and war. But your kind stays. You fight. You endure. You sacrifice for others, even when survival itself is impossible. Ethan felt a strange pride mixed with fear. We just try to help, he said. We don't think about heroes or glory, we just do what we can. The Queen nodded, her eyes reflecting the dying stars. That is exactly what makes you dangerous. That is exactly why the galaxy may survive, because of humans. I spoke your name not as a warning, but as a signal. A call, only if humans answer. May anything be saved. Ethan's gaze fell on the projection of the end silence. The scale was impossible. Billions of stars. Entire civilizations. Countless lives. And yet, somehow standing there, alone in the hall, he felt something stir deep inside him. He straightened, meeting her gaze. Then, we'll stay. We'll do what we must. Even if it seems impossible. Queen Verelia smiled faintly, the first true smile he had ever seen from her. It was not proud. It was not victorious. It was hope, fragile and trembling, like a candle flickering in a storm. Then, human, she said softly, perhaps the stories are true. Perhaps your kind is indeed the last line. Perhaps you are the only hope we have. Ethan's heart pounded harder. Fear, awe, and responsibility collided inside him. He was small, yes. Fragile, yes. But for the first time, he understood something greater. He understood that even the smallest light, held against the dark, could change the fate of everything. The hall was empty. The universe was trembling. And one human, just one, had chosen to stand while all others had fled. Outside, stars continued to die. Inside, Ethan breathed deeply. The moment had come. The moment where humanity would finally face the galaxy's greatest terror. And somehow, he felt ready. The message left Ethan's hands trembling. He had no idea if anyone would respond. Across the galaxy, countless species had fled. The great assembly hall had emptied in panic the moment Queen Verelia spoke his name. Now it was silent again, waiting, watching. As he sent the human call into the void. It was simple. No threats. No demands. No grand speeches. The galaxy is ending. We are coming. He pressed the final key and stared at the console. Nothing happened at first. The hum of the empty hall was deafening. He imagined fleets racing through the stars. He imagined humans answering the call. But he also imagined failure, then faint at first. Distant lights blinked across the star maps. One, then another. And another. Human ships, small, fragile, unarmed for real war, were moving across space. Not fast but determined. Not with fleets or empires, but with courage. Ethan felt his throat tighten. Tears burned in his eyes. Humans, his people, were answering, from mining vessels to old cargo ships, from exploration cruisers to experimental craft. Humans poured into space. They did not ask for glory. They did not demand praise. They simply came because someone had to. On the communication channels, voices cracked and smiled. So, this is the end of everything, huh? A young pilot said, laughing nervously. Looks like we're working late, another replied, calm and steady. Checking instruments that had never been tested for this level of danger. Ethan watched the holographic display light up. Tens of thousands of human ships moving together, improvising, connecting, building a fragile shield against nothingness itself. Every vessel was linked with others. Every crew knew what they were doing without orders. It was chaos. And it was perfect. Queen Verelia floated beside him, silent. She had never moved from the hall since she revealed the truth. Her eyes reflected the human fleet. She whispered, "They are coming so fast." "They always do," Ethan said quietly. "We always show up. Somehow we always manage to be there when things are falling apart." She studied him, her ancient face full of wonder and sorrow. "They will face the end silence?" "They'll try," Ethan said. His hands shook as he pressed another key, guiding the fleet's paths. "They always do." Outside, stars flickered. The universe groaned. The end silence spread faster than light, erasing everything in its path. Entire star systems blinked out of existence before they could even be noticed. Ethan felt a hollow ache in his chest, knowing how many lives were gone already. Yet, humans continued. Ships moved like threads in a tapestry, connecting and reinforcing, anchoring each other with courage and determination. Crews shared memories, shared hopes, and shared fear. They did not run. They did not panic. They adapted. A young engineer's voice trembled over the comms. "We can't hold it. It's too fast, too big." Ethan's own fear rose, but he forced himself to stay calm. "We don't have to hold it forever," he said. "We just have to slow it down enough. That's all anyone needs. That's all humanity ever does." Queen Virelia's hand hovered over the console, almost touching it, though she didn't dare. I have never seen anything like this," she whispered. "Other species would have fled. They would have died trying to hide. But you're kind. You stand. You act. You arrive." Ethan looked at her, and for the first time, he saw not fear, not arrogance, but hope. Small, fragile, trembling hope, shining like a candle in darkness. "We may be small," Ethan said quietly, "but we always try. We always stay. And sometimes, that is enough." Outside, the human fleet continued to arrive, threading through the void, their lights flickering like fireflies against the darkness. Every ship was fragile, every crew exhausted. Yet every human knew the same truth. Someone had to be there. Someone had to face the end. Someone had to slow the collapse of the galaxy. The Queen turned to Ethan, her voice soft. "You have done more than you realize. Just by standing here, you called them." Ethan swallowed hard. "I didn't do anything," he whispered. "They did it because we don't know how to run." And in the silence that followed, the galaxy saw the first glimmer of hope. One human had stayed. Thousands answered. Millions would come. The end silence was coming. But humanity was there. The end silence moved faster than light, a living shadow swallowing stars, twisting time and space into nothing. Human ships, fragile and small, faced it head-on. Ethan stood on the command deck of a battered cruiser, his hands gripping the console so tightly his knuckles were white. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. Every warning signal screamed failure, but he refused to look away. Around him, human crews moved with quiet determination. Engineers adjusted shields, recalibrated engines, and rerouted power. Pilots flew through impossible gaps, threading their ships into chains that held the darkness at bay, just enough to give other species time to escape. The smell of fear mixed with ozone and heated circuits, but no one panicked. Not fully. A young pilot, barely 19, shouted over the comms, her voice shaking. "We can't stop it. It's too fast. We're just small ships." Ethan's voice was calm, though his heart raced. "We don't need to stop it. We just need to slow it down. That's all. That's all we ever need to do. Focus on that." Chains of human ships locked together, forming a fragile lattice against the darkness. Each vessel's engine pulses and energy shields slowed the collapse of nearby stars by fractions of seconds. Those fractions were enough for thousands of other beings to escape the end silence. Ethan glanced at the viewports. Entire solar systems vanished before they could blink. A galaxy that once shimmered with color now dissolved into blackness. He swallowed hard, the weight of it pressing on him like gravity. The Queen's voice came through the comms, distant but clear. "You will fail. You cannot hold it forever." Ethan's jaw tightened. "We're not holding it forever," he said. "We're giving everyone a chance to live. That's all any of us ever do." Another young engineer cried, "We're losing ships. We're losing people." Ethan knelt and placed a hand on her shoulder. "And they will be remembered," he said softly. "We're small, yes. Fragile, yes. But every second we buy, every life we save, matters. We are here. That's what humans do." The end silence twisted around their fleet, trying to erase it like it had erased entire galaxies. But humans adapted. They chained ships together. They shared power. They shared knowledge through neural links, spreading memory and skill across every vessel. One person's mistake became the fleet's lesson. One person's courage became everyone's courage. A pilot laughed nervously as her ship weaved through a collapsing star. "Guess we're not quitting, huh?" "Not today," another replied, steady. "Not ever." Ethan felt a tear roll down his cheek. He did not know if they would survive. He did not know if humanity would live. But he knew something deeper. Humans had faced impossible odds before. They had stood in the face of disasters far smaller than this and survived. Somehow, some way, they always found a path. The Queen watched silently from afar. Even she could not have imagined the determination she was witnessing. Her eyes, ancient and silver, glimmered with something she had long forgotten. Awe. "They do not run," she whispered. "They do not even flinch." Ethan looked out at the fleet, small specks of light against the growing darkness. "We're not big," he said quietly. "We're not powerful. But we don't leave when things fall apart. We stay, we try. We fight, and sometimes that is enough." The end silence shifted, slowed, but it did not stop. The galaxy still trembled. Ships still vanished. Entire systems disappeared. And yet, human ships remained, fragile threads holding back the collapse. For every second they gained, trillions of lives were saved. For every second they endured, hope flickered in the eyes of those who had fled. Ethan's hand clenched the console. He looked at the young crew around him. Sweat and fear lined their faces. "We will stay," he said. "We will do what humans always do. We will stand. And we will not give up." Outside, the end silence roared. Inside, humans moved as one. Small, fragile, scared but unbroken dot, and in that moment, the galaxy saw the truth. Humanity did not conquer with weapons. Humanity conquered despair itself. The galaxy was quiet now, but it was not peace. It was the quiet of aftermath, the hollow silence that follows a storm. Human ships were battered, their hulls scorched, engines failing. Many had vanished completely, swallowed by the end silence despite their courage. Ethan stood on the deck of his cruiser, looking at the screens that showed the destruction. His chest ached and his hands shook. The young engineer beside him, her eyes wide and red from tears, whispered, We couldn't save everyone." Ethan knelt beside her. "No," he said softly. "We couldn't, but we did what we could. That matters. That is everything." The Queen's voice came through the coms, trembling for the first time. "Enough. You have given more than any species could ask. Fall back, retreat." Ethan shook his head. "No, Your Majesty," he said. "We stay, we always stay. Someone has to. If we leave now, everything we saved will vanish." The Queen's eyes, silver and endless, softened with sorrow. She saw the truth. She saw the courage that no weapon, no army, no diplomacy could create. She had known humans were brave, yes. She had known they endured. But she had never seen the depth of their sacrifice. Around Ethan, the remaining ships of the human fleet formed their final line. Chains of vessels, burning with damage, engines straining, shields flickering. Every ship held together, not because it could, but because the crew refused to let go. One pilot spoke over the coms, her voice small and brave. "We're out of weapons, Captain. We're almost done." Ethan took a deep breath. "Then we fight with what we have left." Our hands, our minds, our hearts. That's all humanity ever needs. The end silence roared closer, a wall of nothingness that twisted reality. Stars bent and collapsed. Time itself stuttered. And still humans stayed. They anchored their ships together, used their bodies to maintain energy conduits, shared memories through neural links so that no one forgot what to do. No one lost hope. Every second they held back the darkness saved lives elsewhere. Every human who fell gave another chance to someone who had fled. The cost was unbearable. Entire crews vanished in a heartbeat. Friends, families, comrades gone. And yet, the humans endured. Ethan's own ship shuddered violently. The hull cracked. Alarms blared. He could feel the weight of the entire galaxy pressing down on him. He glanced at the young engineer, her small hands trembling as she guided power through a failing reactor. She looked at him and nodded. They understood each other without words. They were not invincible. They were terrified. They were fragile, and yet they would not move. The Queen watched, her hands folded, a silent witness to humanity's final stand. "You have done what none of us could," she whispered. "You have faced the end, knowing you may not survive. And still, you stood." Ethan swallowed hard. His throat was tight. "We are not invincible," he said. "We are not gods. We are just people. But someone has to stay. Someone has to face it. Someone has to fight, even if the universe itself tells us to give up." The end silence began to falter, slowed not by power, not by weapons, but by human determination. It twisted, shrank, struggled against their resistance. Every second it slowed was a victory. Every human who endured made the difference between life and death for countless others. Ethan felt tears streaming down his face. Exhaustion weighed on him, grief for the fallen, fear for what was still to come. But he felt a quiet pride, a light that no darkness could touch. Humanity had stood. Humanity had held the line. Humanity had faced the impossible. And in that moment, the galaxy remembered what fear could not erase. Humans never quit. Humans never run. Humans, even small, fragile, and scared, could hold the universe in their hands, simply by refusing to let go. The cost was immense. Many were gone. Many would never return. But something unbreakable had been forged in the stars, the courage of a species that refused to leave. When everything fell apart, Ethan looked up at the dim, trembling stars and whispered to himself, "We stayed." That is all anyone ever needs to do. The Queen, watching silently, let a single tear fall. "Perhaps," she whispered, "hope is not lost." Years later, the great assembly hall was full again. The walls gleamed under alien light, and the pillars no longer seemed oppressive but solemn, holding the weight of countless histories. The seats were filled with representatives from thousands of species. All eyes turned to the center, where a single statue stood. It was a human. A man, standing tall, hands empty, facing the stars as if challenging the universe itself. The expression on his face was quiet, determined, filled with courage and sorrow at once. This was Ethan, or at least, the human he represented. Queen Varelia stepped forward, her silver eyes reflecting the memories of that impossible day. The room fell silent. No one whispered. No one moved. Everyone remembered, in their own way, the moment when the galaxy could have ended. "When I spoke the sentence," she began, her voice echoing softly across the hall. "When I said, humanity has arrived, many fled. Fear overcame them. They ran to save themselves. And yet one human stayed. One human chose to face what no other species dared. That choice changed everything. Ethan or the statue stood not for glory, but for courage. For the countless men, women, and children who had followed him into the void, who had fought when hope seemed impossible. Ships lost, friends gone, memories erased, yet humanity had endured. They had faced the end silence and held it long enough for the galaxy to survive. The Queen's voice softened. We are alive today because humans stayed. They did not seek reward. They did not seek power. They simply did what was needed. They stood when others fled, and in that act, they became the light against the darkness. In the audience, beings of all shapes and sizes wiped tears. Some had fled that day. Some had survived because of the human stand. Every species knew that without humans, they would not be here. And yet, they had learned something deeper. Hope is strongest in the smallest, most fragile hands. A young alien girl whispered to her companion. They were just people. Yes, the companion replied. But they carried everything on their shoulders. And they did not break. Ethan's memory returned to him, standing in the ruined cruiser, watching stars vanish, feeling loss and fear, but choosing to stand. He had not thought of heroism. He had only thought of doing what was right. And now, centuries later, that act was remembered by an entire galaxy. The statue in the center of the hall captured that essence perfectly. It did not glorify violence. It did not show triumph over enemies. It showed courage, steadfastness, hope. It showed humanity's refusal to quit, no matter the cost. The Queen stepped closer and placed a hand on the base of the statue. When I said one sentence, she told the assembly, the crowd escaped. They feared what they did not understand. They feared humans, and they were right to fear. But I was wrong to think all would flee. One stayed. And because of that one, we all remain. The hall remained silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Every being, from the smallest to the largest, felt a weight lift from their shoulders. They remembered that courage was not about strength or power, but about choice. Ethan, standing among the audience now, felt the tears in his eyes. He had survived, yes, though many of his friends had not. Yet he understood that survival was not just about living, it was about leaving something behind. A memory, a lesson, a legacy. Humans had shown the galaxy that hope could endure, even in the face of impossible odds. The Queen raised her hand, and a light filled the hall, reflecting off every